Oh no, Bobby. We suck again.
They were due.
Celtics drop 116-101 to the Milwaukee Bucks. This is the Garden Report. Jimmy T, Bobby, Noah's on the way. We're gonna hash things out. We're gonna talk about this game. We're gonna look at maybe some positives outside of this game, because we're not just talking about this game, right, Bobby? We want to look big picture here, and we're gonna bring everybody in. Little kumbaya section. This is the Garden Report. Always has to be a shot at somebody.
I know.
They're never clean.
They have to run. That's the only shot they have.
They do it for 82 games. We're about to find out.
He already has shown what he's capable of.
Did surprise me. I thought we were going to hang in there.
This makes me think that we do need to be humble.
I actually think you're the only one who deserved that beating.
Cut the music on it.
Cut the sound.
Cut the sound. Cut the sound. Perhaps the Celtics have come back down to earth. I mean, listen, they weren't going to win. They weren't going to win out, right, Bobby? They weren't going to win the rest of the season. Although, for a second there, it felt like maybe they could. Maybe they just could figure it out. A little bit of heart, a little bit of effort. Who knows what this team can do? But the Milwaukee Bucks, I don't know if the Milwaukee Bucks woke up in the second half or the Boston Celtics fell asleep. Maybe a little bit of both. Just an absolutely abysmal shooting third quarter from Boston. You probably have the numbers in front of you, Bobby. I think they missed.
They missed every shot from three in the third.
Yeah, every shot from three in the third. Typically, that's not what you want, and that's a huge reason for being outscored by the opponent when you don't hit a single shot from the outside, and that's exactly what happened to Boston. So we'll dig in a little bit here. Milwaukee with a bit of a inspiring win, I guess you could say, without Giannis and Antetokounmpo on the court, and getting some help from the Kuzma, 31.
He had 30 points in the third.
Unbelievable performance from Kuzma. Triple-double from Kevin Porter, and then you had old reliable Bobby Portis. Are they going to put Portis's number in the rafters up there in Milwaukee? They might have to.
So I haven't been up to Milwaukee. I haven't been up to Milwaukee in a while. First of all, great crowd. Sounded awesome tonight.
Great city, sneaky.
Yeah, I like the city. We spent a lot of time up there. Big games over the years. And the Bobby chant, of course. Bobby, Bobby.
For the second most important Bobby.
Yeah. One of my favorite things around the NBA that you'll see in a visiting arena. And they, of course, were all over it tonight. He was incredible. And they were lining him up for mismatches every time. He was draining threes. And so, listen, Jimmy, we'll have some concerns out of this one on a granular level, but big picture, it's an ice cold shooting night. It's three guys going off that you didn't expect to off the Bucks, starters, a couple starters, obviously, but Porter's off the bench there. And then
Porter started.
Portis.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So all that considered, the Celtics' recent run of good play, you would due for a clunker at some point here. I'm not panicking over one game. I mean, this was definitely trap game territory going up to Milwaukee. No Giannis.
There should be no trap games for this Celtics team, Bobby. That's
right, but they've had a couple. The Nets game, the Jazz game. They've run into.
We're not going to put the Bucks in Nets category level, are we? I know the Bucks haven't.
They're 1-7 without Giannis.
I know the Bucks are struggling overall, but if you're the Boston Celtics, I mean, again, playing inspired basketball, but that's why they win games, Bobby. They're not able to just rely on talent. They're not able to just roll the ball out there and say, "Oh, we got 5 former All-Stars in our starting lineup, or 6 guys that have been to the All-Star game, or we got, a bunch of former, champs and vets here." No, it's not team. They're winning because they're out efforting, right? On top of other things. Of course, they're shooting well, and they've got, a very efficient 5-man rotation, the best in the league, actually, right? Offensively.
Yep.
And so it's not just like, hey, we're trying harder than you, but that's certainly a huge part of it, is that you've got guys on this team that are playing for their lives, right? And when you have enough of them, you end up winning some of those 50-50 games, those games where it could go either way, or maybe even surprise some opponents because they're the team that's considering, you're the trap game for some teams, right? If you're the Boston Celtics, or at least you were. I think the word is kind of getting out there on the Celtics team where you just absolutely cannot half-assed against them because they will beat you. And, but you're going to run into games where the other team's going to get hot too. It's the NBA. The Bucks do have some level of talent. They obviously have players who have been there, done that before. Bobby Portis being one of them, right? And he got into a groove in that second half, fourth quarter as well, and just he was just doing his thing, hitting shots, and was 5 of 6, I think, from 3 or something close to that. And Milwaukee kind of reminded everybody, like, we're not that bad. At least, we're not giving up yet just because our guy is out, and there's a little bit of drama around the whole Giannis situation, and maybe we'll talk about that at some point in the show. But this Celtics team could not have been colder in that second half. And I know we're going to talk about certain guys in this team, but the first one that comes to mind, and it's too bad for him because it's a bit of a homecoming, right? But
yeah.
I know you're not panicking, Bobby, about the team or the loss itself, but where are you at with Hauser? Because tonight, 0 from 10 from the field, 0 of 9 from 3, I think it was. I want to make sure I got my numbers right here, but I think that's accurate. And, a goose egg. And yeah, those numbers are accurate. 0 of 10 from the field, 0 of 9 from 3, a -15, and just not putting it together right now for them.
Yeah, not one of his finer nights. And the sequence that knocked him out of the game in the second half was just brutal. The 3 missed to start the fourth quarter, and then misses. I don't know if I've ever seen one player, maybe a player tapping the ball around, but I've never seen one player miss 2 threes at the beginning of a possession and then go inside later in that same possession and miss 2 shots at the rim. That's got to be the first time I've ever seen that.
Just blew half of his field goals in 10 seconds or whatever it was.
I mean, that was unreal. And obviously, again, crazy fluky sequence there, but he has not hit shots at a high rate this year, at least compared to his past productivity in a Celtics uniform. His play overall has been pretty erratic. I've liked the defense, and even in this game, he found some ways between 7 rebounds and a nice help side block and a couple good individual defensive moments. The Portis streak where he was on fire to start the second half ended when Hauser finally got on him, but this shot making swing throughout his season has been interesting to watch. He started super slow. Felt like in recent weeks he got back to an acceptable level, 36%. You're obviously asking for more from him than that.
Right.
But this year, we've talked about it. There's 3 guys on this roster who don't quite fit what they're going for in terms of an identity. And that's Hauser, Simons, who's been productive but inconsistent. This was a tough Simons night overall. And then you're looking at a guy like, some of the bigs off the bench who just have been completely relegated, Garza and, the rest at this point.
I don't want to talk about those guys right now.
Yeah. So the rotation's in an interesting spot right now because that small ball lineup had worked so well. Hauser's obviously out there for some of those minutes. First half, they went on a great run with that group, Minot at center. They actually took Kate out of this game like 2-3 minutes in, and pretty much went to small ball for a lot of the night after that. I know Kate ends with 25 minutes, but they were small with Minot at center. There was a stretch in the first half where Walsh moved to center. And as we've talked about, I know Boucher was out tonight, but no Tillman, no Garza. Like, that is your rotation at this point. And I feel like the jury's still out on that small ball group. And they've been great offensively. They've been the reason that this is, or part of the reason that this has become the best offense in the NBA. Over the last couple of weeks. But in a game like this, you got stagnant. You started launching threes over and over and over again, particularly to start the second half. You missed 16 straight threes to open the second half into the fourth quarter. And you were just paper flat in that second half. And it turned into defensive lapses the other way. We've watched this game from them before, Jimmy, where they just miss a million threes. It bleeds into their defensive effort. And it's not fun to watch at all. So you're hoping that this is a one-off, but this is ugly. And this is something you ask with this team when you can't shoot at even a league average level. Is this going to be close to the result that we see here, particularly when you can't rebound on par with the other team? And when you have that small ball group in, you're not quite going to be able to do that.
Right. And you know what, Bobby? It's not fun when the Celtics play that way, but it's always fun on the Garden Report regardless, and not just the Garden Report. All right, guys, and before we keep going, because we do have a full show tonight. Want to remind you guys, you are watching the Garden Report post-game show, proud part of the CLNS Media Network. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe, turn on notifications so you never miss when we drop a new video on the channel. Make sure to follow us on all the social media accounts at CelticsCLNS. Follow our show Twitter, the Garden Report, to stay up to date on when we go live. It's not just post-game. Bobby, you're tossing Garden Report shows up throughout the week and things of that nature. And if you want even more, check out the rest of the CLNS lineup. Celtics fans, we've got Celtics All Access with tons of segments and behind-the-scenes content, NBA history buffs. We got that channel with Nick, the Podfather himself, Coop, Max, Bob Ryan, and plenty of others, legends on that channel. Patriots fans, hit up Patriots Press Pass with Taylor and the gang, the best Patriots coverage in town by far. You've got Bedard, you've got Giardi, you've got a whole Callahan, unbelievable Patriots coverage going on right now and coming into the biggest part of the season. Bruins fans, I think the Bruins game just ended too, and I think they won. Somebody has to confirm for that one for me, but
they were up.
We got Bruins Rinkside with the best pocky odds around. And don't forget PrizePicks. Always a show and everything on CLNS is brought to you by our good friends at PrizePicks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app, the exclusive daily partner of the CLNS Media Network. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code CLNS and get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup, Bobby. And I hope that nobody picked more on the Celtics tonight, unless maybe Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, Brown keeps his run going.
We'll talk about Brown for a minute. Another 30-point performance. I posted a comment a couple minutes ago. Another wasted Jaylen Brown performance. Is that how you kind of come out of this one? Was it that simple? Could Jaylen Brown have done anything more to help this team? I know certainly it was not his doing that caused that second half collapse there. What are you pointing towards this one? I mean, we can talk Brown for a second if you want, but he's a positive in this.
Yeah, I mean, you got what you needed from him in this one for the most part. You probably can go back and find some defensive lapses from him in this one because there were many across the board.
Of course.
A couple quick fouls.
Aside, obviously, we'll talk about that. But, I mean, offensively, he gave you another 30 points.
Right.
You look at the plus-minus, though. He's a minus 15. He saw him on the ground a lot tonight. I mean, I don't think he was shying away from the contact. I think that he was getting after it as he normally did. But I think, you mentioned it earlier, Bobby. Once the shots stopped falling, the defense started falling as well.
Yeah. And I thought in this game, the Bucks did a good job of loading up against Jaylen, who did get to the free throw line a bunch. And that's been a trend with him over the last couple of weeks here. It feels like 7, 8, 9 free throws every night for him. I think 7 probably a game now for the season. So he's up among, as we talked about a little bit on our thread, the higher level of free throw shooters this season. He's set the tone in terms of going inside and attacking and kicking the ball out. But the Bucks, notoriously do collapse, do pack the paint a little bit. And so they forced the Celtics to kick it out a lot in this game, take a lot of threes, play on the perimeter. And that ended up being a good strategy on this night for them. And Brown still found still got to his mid-range shot, still got to the free throw line, as you mentioned here. The only thing I'll knock him for is late second. He does pick up a couple quick fouls, including the offensive foul that knocked him out over the final 3 minutes there. Celtics still finished 9-9, I believe, over that closing stretch to end the second. And, man, the way it was going for Walsh in the first half, you thought alongside Brown and, White showing a little flashes here and there, you thought this was their game. And it just turned so quick into that third quarter. And I think misses piled up on them. I think they got a lot of really tough looks to open up that third quarter. And it basically just overwhelmed them. They got the offensive rebounds, maybe a bad turnover here or there. But this was a missed shots game. There's no doubt about it. And that probably compounded. Could have made a few more free throws late in the third. It did frustrate me. I believe it was like the late stages of the third. They had picked up a couple quick fouls on Milwaukee, and they had a golden opportunity to get into the bonus and just launched another 3. They ended up getting there on the next possession and, again, squandered some of those opportunities at the line to close that quarter, which is why third quarter, officially, worst quarter of the season for the Celtics with 0 for 12 3-point shooting. as well as 13 points, which is their fewest in a quarter this season. So once that happened, and once you got that knockout punch at the start of the fourth from the Bucks, this game was over, and they did pull the plug with 5 minutes left. So yeah, I'm going to blame this one on the offense, bleeding into the defense a little bit. A lot of missed shots, but not able to get a good variety of shots across the floor. They did end up going a little 3-point heavy in the second half, I thought.
What's up with Derek White? You know, because this is my fear going into the year. And so far I've been proven wrong, which I'm happy about. You know, I'm okay. I'm a man. I can admit when I predict something, and so far has not gone that way. But I was under the impression that unless Brown and White were on every single night, Celtics weren't going to win that game. And I've been wrong, because they've had a lot of key contributors. Jordan Walsh, we haven't really even talked about him much, but we did mention the fact that he was so hot in this game. Whether it's Walsh, whether it's Minot, you know, you can go down the line of guys who have stepped up in certain points and really have filled that void. Even the games where Brown has missed or White has missed, they've figured out ways to win those ones as well, which I thought was for sure a loss. But tonight you had a situation where Brown really was your only, I shouldn't say only, because Walsh gave you 20, but he tailed off in that second, just like everybody else's. But other than Brown and a little bit of Walsh, you weren't getting much. You know, we talked about Hauser being ice cold. Pritchard was cold tonight as well. Derek White, 3 of 12 from the field and 2 of 9 from 3. So this was one of those games where, you know, if you didn't get it from Brown and White, and you did lose because of it. And I think, you know, to your point earlier, it spilled into the defense. So that really goes into why Milwaukee ended up with 115. But you're just barely scraping by with 100 points. That's not going to cut it, right? So, I mean, you asked the question earlier, is this closer to who they are if the shots aren't falling? Or, you know, have they been riding this crazy momentum, this crazy wave that's kind of allowed them to go on this regular season stretch of wins here? And are we overvaluing the wins right now because we're so pleasantly surprised by, you know, the way this team is played? And I say we, I guess I'm talking about me and some other fans that were a little bit more down on this team than others were. Are we now overvaluing those wins and that performance and forgetting that, well, there's a lot of maybe additional factors that contributed to the fact that they are winning these games, maybe things that are going to come back down to earth a little bit? Because we were talking about how, you know, the bench is shooting at a pretty high clip, 3-point percentage wise. Is that something that's going to come back down to earth? Is Jaylen Brown eventually going to come back down to earth a little bit, or can he sustain this, 30-point on a night-to-night basis with a little help? Derek White, is he, over the last couple of weeks, he's kind of clawed his way back to where we all kind of remember him being. Can he sustain that and be that player moving forward? Or is he going to slip back into these games like he kind of had tonight, where it's a little bit of a helter-skelter performance? Like these are some of the questions that you kind of ask yourself after you lose by 15 to a Bucks team without Giannis, that really has no business, beating you by that much, regardless of how you played in that second half.
Yeah, I think we've talked about throughout their run to begin this season, how sustainable is the shooting, and not just the 3-point shooting, which has come up from a slow start. The mid-range shooting on this team has been out of this world, and it's carried them, and it's become their bread and butter through Pritchard, Brown, and others at times. And that's pretty much carrying their offense, along with some other things involved. But you look back at the last month and change here, this was the first night since November 3rd where they shot below 30% from 3. Kind of hard to believe, but they've been shooting pretty solid from 3 for a little while now, right. Coinciding with their great run over the last month or so.
It's not a coincidence, right? I mean, of course, but the question is that sustainable? Is that who they are, or are they all shooting above, not all of them, but are they shooting above their means, if you will?
Yeah, I mean, you look at some of the guys who are doing it. Walsh, out of this world. I believe, how many threes does he have now over this little run for him? He ends this one with 3. So he has about, I believe, 10 threes over his last 4 or 5 games here or something like that, shooting like close to 70% from 3.
3 of 4 tonight, 1 of 2 against Toronto, 4 of 5 against LA. So there's your 8 of
Jimmy math.
Don't make me do math. 8 of 11. Then he went 9 of 12. He's been 9 of 12 over his last 4 games.
Yeah,
It's
unreal.
crazy. Yeah.
So you don't think that's going to continue necessarily, but that's been important. Minot has been great from 3 this year for the most part. Shireman in the pockets of opportunity he's had has hit those. Even Ugo comes in and hits a 3 in those 1 or 2 shots that he ends up taking on the nights he gets in. So those guys have shot well. So Hauser obviously hasn't. Pritchard has come up. White's come a long way. You do wonder where it's going to settle down to for this team, and I would guess they'll probably be on the edge of a top 10 3-point shooting team, maybe closer to league average if they're not able to stay consistent here. But that did come up from the bottom of the league for a decent stretch to begin the season. So do they go through a lapse for 4 or 5 games where they shoot poorly here and there? And how do they handle that? Are they going to lose all of those games? Are they going to find other ways to win? I look at some of their weaker shooting nights recently, and 35% against the Cavs. That's typically been a loss. They hung on in that game after the Cavs rallied late, obviously. 34 against Minnesota, couldn't hang on in that game after dipping down a little bit from 3. 32 against the Nets, you lose that game. 34 at Philly, you lose a close game there, and then 35 at Orlando in the first of those 2 games, you end up getting blown out. The first game of this month, you ended up surviving through some bad shooting against the Knicks. So you've been able to win certain games while shooting poorly. But we've talked about the margin for error with this team, Jimmy, and every little thing, whenever it becomes an issue, starts working against you. And they're still, as much as they've diversified the offense here, a team that's super reliant on jump shooting. And that's not just threes, it's mid-rangers.
I was just going to say that. How much more important is it for them because they don't have that interior scoring presence? I mean, all the credit in the world to Keita, right? I think we can all agree that he's exceeded expectations this season. But when you're talking about having an interior presence offensively, nobody really jumps out at you as okay, here's our fail-safe option. Here's our bread and butter in case the shots aren't falling tonight. You just kind of end up with a second half like you saw tonight in a way, because you're going to lean into those outside shots because that's what's kind of getting you the wins. That's kind of gotten you where you are so far. It's not those higher percentage shots in the paint or, the post-up game or whatnot. You don't have that plan B.
I got the numbers for you here, Jimmy,
Okay.
In terms of the diversity of their offense.
Yeah.
So 22% of their offense is spot-up jumpers. They've been excellent on them this year. As we've talked about, shooting has gotten them through. 87th percentile of the spot-up jump shooting team. 18% in transition. They're getting the transition game going a little more. They've become more efficient in that area. That's 18% of their offense. The other 18% is pick and roll, where they've been very good. Isolation, a lot of that too at 9%.
Where does this all rank though? Like percentage-wise, is that something you could pull up? Like, okay, 18% sounds good or doesn't, compared to the league average, or
it's middle of the pack. They run a lot of pick and roll, so that's in the upper quarter of the league, the amount that they run. And then isolation, they're in the 80th percentile of how much isolation they run. So it's a lot of isolation. It's a lot of jump shooting. Their pick and roll has come a long way. They've gotten Keita more involved in that aspect, as well as Minot and some others. But they don't roll a lot. They don't get a ton of offensive rebounds, in terms of like their putbacks as part of their offense. They don't cut. And obviously they never post up. So there are some missing elements there, and they obviously don't get to the free throw line a ton. This was a weird one because they got to the free throw line in this game, missed a few. They won that battle for, I believe, just the second time this year, as we've tracked that. So you did get there a decent amount in this game, at least more than you usually do. And you weren't able to take advantage there either. So I don't know. This one was a weird one to me. This just felt like it had all the perfect makings of a loss. But it does, as you mentioned, Jimmy, raise that antenna of, all right, what does this look like when you're shooting poorly from 3? And they haven't done that much this season. This was one of those games, and you're probably going to lose when you're in the 20s from 3, I'd imagine, for this team, unless you're just extraordinary on the offensive glass.
Facts, my dog. I think Noah is... Give me a thumbs up if she's ready. There she is. Okay, we're bringing Noa Dalzell to join us on the Garden Report live. Thanks, Noah, for joining. Me and Bobby
As opposed to like pre-taped.
Yeah,
We don't know.
This is not AI. This is the
Yeah,
real,
like the Michael
real
Jordan,
Noah.
like we're gonna have him this year.
Yeah, exactly. No. Welcome, Noah. Thank you for joining us. We've gone about 25 minutes just
Panic meter time.
wondering, like, should they sell tomorrow? Should we,
I've been
bench
listening. I know exactly what you guys have been talking
bench
about.
Jalen, start the kids for the rest of the year? Now that is the tank back on? No, I'm kidding. John Zanis did chime in with that comment, obviously, wherever he is right now watching us. But Noah, I guess we'll start with what went wrong tonight. Obviously, the shooting went wrong, but is it that simple? Is there something the Bucks were doing? Is this a one-off, or is this something that we were kind of fearing might pop up at some point? Just the team just goes cold, and the talent kind of shows through in a way.
To be honest, this felt like a game where a couple guys were able to get in really good rhythm with maybe a few defensive lapses early on that allowed them to catch fire. Like Bobby Portis, that's, to be honest, I feel like that's how he plays every time he plays the Celtics. I'm always surprised with Bucks. Yeah, Bucks fans are always asking for him to get traded. I feel like he's very unpopular on Bucks Twitter, but he seems to go off against Boston. Maybe he just likes playing against the rival. But 18 points on 7 of 9 shooting for him in the second half. The Celtics as a team are 3 of 26 from 3. Like, it just felt like a couple of guys just got way too comfortable early on. And I didn't like some of the shot contests. I feel like guys were a little bit late, but defensively, like, things just kind of fell apart. And it was a kind of the perfect example of how interconnected offense and defense can be, because once the defense started to kind of fall apart, now they're just out of flow in the offensive end. They missed a lot of clean looks, but also I think once you're kind of pressing because the other team is going on a run, they also took some quicker shots and shots that were a little bit more out of rhythm. Some individual players really struggled. I thought Sam Hauser had one of his more difficult games that I've seen him have. He's 0 of 7 in the second half.
That's one way to put it.
That's the way that I'm going to put it.
Yeah.
What went wrong for him in this one?
But it's not even really spin. I think this was a bad game, but I feel like this was the doing of, like, this is what happens when you let guys get in a good flow. And I have to go back and look at, like, the first few shots that Bobby Portis and Kyle Kuzma hit, because that's what usually kind of sets the tone for those guys. And then obviously now Bobby Portis can't miss from 3, right? Like that now you're in trouble. But it did kind of feel like they got started with a little bit easier looks than they've been giving up and they've been conceding.
Bobby, you said something I wasn't exactly.
I was gonna say no. Like, what went wrong with Hauser in this one? I mean, it was a bizarre game for him, especially that stretch that knocked him out of it in the fourth with like 5 misses in a minute.
I think just that, like, I don't know. I mean, he's from Wisconsin, and I think it was his birthday. A part of me was thinking maybe he
worst
put a lot of
birthday
pressure on his
ever.
homecoming game. You know what? If that's your worst birthday ever, it'll be a good life. But I was kind of thinking about Peyton having the Portland game last year where he was pressing a little bit, like picks up those early fouls. Sometimes, like, these guys are human. They want to come out, and I'm sure he had a lot of people in attendance. Obviously, we're not there, so we don't have, like, the on the ground reporting, but I'm sure he had a lot of people in attendance in Wisconsin. I think his family traveled back with him, and I'm sure he wanted to have a really good game, and he was extra jazzed. And
maybe like his ex-girlfriend was in the crowd, and he's like,
I mean, I think he's happily married, but maybe.
Okay, yeah. I don't know. I don't know these guys' personal lives.
No, he has a
study up. Read the article.
Yeah, he has a wife and kid. We see her around.
Your ex is your ex. It doesn't matter how happy you see her. She throws you off. Like, you don't want it. You don't want her or him. Goes both ways. You just don't want them around. So
yeah, I'm sure that's what it was.
And that's total speculation. Like, he missed some clean looks. He misses the layup.
High school
Once he missed the layup,
walks by all of a sudden.
Once he missed the layup, I was like, this is just not his night.
I said this earlier, Noah. Have you ever seen a player miss 2 threes and 2 twos on one possession? Like, that has to be a first in my mind.
I feel like you've probably done it a couple times, Bobby.
Me? Yeah, for sure.
No, Bobby.
Me.
Oh.
Not you. Not you, no. I've seen your game. You can shoot.
It depends on the day.
I mean, I'm sure it's happened, but it's hard to think of.
Listen,
yeah, it sums up
his
performance, though.
And there was some stints of them really playing with a lot of energy and a lot of effort and, like, just trying to make a play. And it just felt like this was just not their night. Like, Kada had a few possessions there down the stretch where I was like, okay, he is trying to give them an opportunity. Like, when you get 4 or 5 offensive rebounds, like, that should be that should result in a basket, right? On an NBA team. Like, and they had some clean looks. So I don't know. I don't want to like every time they lose a game to be like, oh, like we can just scrap that one. But this just felt like the kind of game team where they could not get on a streak of winning basketball plays in that second half. And meanwhile, the Bucks had, I would imagine, one of their best halves of the season. I mean, they shoot 63% from the field, and some of that was defensive lapses, but like some of it's just, it's your night, right? And the crowd got behind them, and there are guys on that side that are fighting to show that their destination for Giannis to stay in, and they've been dealing with a lot of media reports and locker room stuff. Like, I'm sure for them, this kind of game, a really hot Celtics team that has been getting a lot of national attention.
You let Doc Rivers beat you, though. If you're Joe Mazzulla, and
I'll never knock Doc.
You guys know
Jimmy,
Joe.
you're in rare form right now.
I love Doc, by the way, but still,
all the throwbacks for Jimmy tonight. Portis, Doc.
Oh, I feel
Who
like
else is throwing it back?
I feel like I'm in college again. No, if you're Joe, because you guys know Joe pretty well from covering the team, what's he pissed about in the locker room? Like, what is he pissed? What's he pissed about? I mean, he's always pissed, right? But what's he upset about in this game? Like, what's he gonna really hammer home? I mean, the other thing is this: they've had 4 days off. I mean, they've had a lot of time to rest up, to watch film, to practice. All we heard about was how great it's going to be for them to get some, time to, work on some things. And they come out and they throw a freaking stinker tonight. I mean, Joe must be, if I was Joe, I'd be pretty annoyed and pretty pissed off at what I saw tonight. Is there something specific that you think he's going to hammer? I know you guys haven't rewatched the film, but just from an approach standpoint, even if it's just, is there something that he saw in somebody's aggression out there in the court, or lack of it? I mean, he's quick with the hook sometimes. If he doesn't like what he sees, he's not the type of guy that's going to just watch, Minot or Walsh or Ugo or Hauser, just watch these guys play the wrong way. But I think tonight, you ran into something different in that second half there. And I don't know if there was a timeout or two that maybe were needed earlier on in that second half, in that third quarter, when he started to see a little lackadaisical play, if you will, on the defensive side, Bobby. But just wondering if there was something that if you were him that you might hammer these guys with a little bit.
Yeah, a few bad turnovers, transition defense. I think those are little things he always keys in on. And 13's not a ton, but I thought there were some bad turnovers in this game, though. Like Minot passing out of the corner, some offensive fouls, rather. We mentioned the one that knocked Jalen out of the game in the second quarter there with the foul trouble. And I think there were definitely some plays around the rim, per usual, when they're at their worst. They're a little out of control. Missed touches at the basket. I mean, he pulled Hauser right off the court after his little double miss inside, because those always go the other way.
That anymore.
I know.
Hauser alone.
It's starting to become
such a moment in this game where it was it embodied this game. Not to put it all on Hauser as the fan base. I mean, the fans get on Hauser when he's struggling. I will say, but yeah, that stood out to me. Noah, what did you say?
The fans do get on Hauser. I don't know what it is, but you look at the shot margin. Like, they took 88 shots, the Bucks took 79. That's been a strong point for the Celtics all season long, that they've been winning the shot margin, even the rebounding battle. I felt like they had a million turnovers in this game, yet they only have 13 to the
They
Bucks
won the free
15.
throw battle.
Yeah, so the margins were there, and I honestly felt like defensively they were just a step slow and probably mixed up their execution a little bit, because at the end of the day, Bobby Portis comes out of the gate and hits 2 threes to start that fourth quarter when he already has the hot hand. And I know Kata's on him, and I know that that's not his thing necessarily, but I feel like they were a little bit a couple steps behind defensively for a lot of this game. And then once you let a team get there, that's always the thing, is once you let a team get into that comfort zone, now everything is going in, right? And they start hitting some tough shots. So I don't know. They also went on this horrible shooting dry streak where it was just, Drew said on the broadcast that 16 straight to start the second half is the third worst in franchise history or something like that.
Yeah, you're
not going to win a lot of games shooting
not great
3 of 26 from 3 in the half, right? Unless you came in with a massive lead.
Not to mention they missed them all in the third quarter. So some of the, by the time the fourth quarter came around, it was who even cares at this point?
I didn't see anything, though, that I was like, okay, I'm going to take this for the next game and say, okay, this is a new problem that emerged in this game. It just kind of felt like just a bad night, which they haven't had a lot of in recent weeks. So they were kind of due for one too.
So I have one thing I took from this game, and I know, we did a pod yesterday. No, I mentioned it at the tail end. Does the small ball lineup survive over this next stretch here? Because it was so instrumental to this past stretch where they rose to number one in offense over the last couple weeks, and they're shooting great, and things are just going awesome for that group. And even in this game in the first half, they had some nice stretches playing small ball. In the second half, I felt like with that group out there, it was a lot of 5-on-5, like one-on-one guys dribbling just against one defender for long stretches of time and nothing coming out of it. I feel like the Bucks collapsed on Jalen a little bit in the second half and were able to slow him down just a little bit, force him to pass at the very least. And I feel like he didn't get the best Minot game here overall from him at center, just all things considered. I know he shot 2 for 3 from 3 and was only a -3 in this one, but I didn't love some of the decisions, some of the positions he put himself in on the floor at times. And it just wasn't a super impactful lineup as it's been in recent weeks here. Again, it could just be one game. Could be that the Bucks bruised them in the paint. I mean, when the Celtics went small in this game, Portis just posted them up again and again and again, hit those turnarounds, back guys down into the paint. He even went at Jalen at one point in the paint there. And it's just crazy shot making from those guys. So I will chalk it up as a bit of a fluke night, Noah, but I'm keeping a close eye on that small ball lineup because as we've talked about, it's Keita, who they pulled out of the game like 2-3 minutes into this one for some reason. They must have loved the small ball matchup in this one. And Minot. And you're not seeing Garza. You're not seeing Tillman. Boucher was sick tonight. So your two centers right now are Keita and Minot. Is that going to be sustainable?
Probably not, right? And I think that's why the front court in the defensive rebounding and size in general continues to be the biggest question mark surrounding this team. And I wouldn't, we'll see if they acquires a big, before the deadline or not, but that is definitely the biggest hole in the roster still. And there's been some really good things with the small ball lineup that we've talked about at length over the last few weeks, but inevitably if there's something to in general be concerned about this group moving forward, or like looking at the playoffs or a playoff series, like that's going to be a challenge.
All right. Before we go any further, we want to remind everybody at home that this episode of the Garden Report and all episodes of the Garden Report are brought to you by PrizePicks. It's the holiday season, guys. The best time of the year for sports. Nothing better. Bowl games, basketball matchups, playoff pushes, football playoffs around the corner. It's all happening at once. And while you and I are out here making decisions every day, what gifts to buy, what to eat, which game to watch, there's one place where it feels good to be right. Bobby, where is that? Not paying attention. PrizePicks. Thank you. We love PrizePicks on the show. And I will double down on this. Around the holidays, it's so much more fun to play PrizePicks and you get together with your friends, you get a little group together, you make your picks, you compare, maybe make a little competition within the friend group to see who's got the most points and, figure it out from there. But I love it at the holidays. Adds another layer to getting together with your friends and family, what's on TV. And there's always some great matchups coming on. So, a really cool new thing now with PrizePicks is the early payouts. If your lineup gets off to a hot start, you may now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. So if you like what the payout looks like, and you might not be so confident that it's going to finish that way, finish it out where you are. You can start a new one with different teams, different players, and all that stuff. And I hate to say it, not for Bobby, because Bobby's actually crushing our fantasy football league. But for those of you who
baby,
maybe your fantasy season is over, like me, I'll say it. In our CLNS league, my fantasy football season is over. So is John Zanis's. I hate to say it, but we actually finished.
You two stunk it up.
I want to say we were the two worst teams in the league, but we got bad injuries this year, so I'm going to put it up to that. But if your fantasy season's over, PrizePicks is a great way to still have some fantasy fun. You can play fantasy football every week, pick your favorite players, and win when they hit the projections every week. No draft required. So download PrizePicks app today and use the code CLNS. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineups. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. And it's good to be the Milwaukee Bucks tonight, just tonight.
How long have you playing them?
In general, it hasn't really been good to be the Milwaukee Bucks this season. Whether it's
Good crowd tonight, though. Shout out to them.
yeah, it's almost like they're not really aware of what's going on, because if you're a Bucks fan right now, there's so much going on around the game.
I was kind of thinking that. I was like, what do you have to cheer for right now?
I
love
you
that
even
crowd.
Smile.
They got a Thanasis sighting tonight.
How about
Maybe that's-
Bobby?
That's what it was. That's definitely what it was. Listen, they had a moment. They had a little bit of a moment, but where are you guys at with the Giannis situation, the Giannis drama? No, we got to get the drama segment on this show. We talked about it.
I'm over drama.
No,
That was a different
That's
me
it.
back then.
you're going to learn, Noah. Drama is what like the cog in the railroad. We need the drama. I live for the drama. Now, I don't necessarily need it in Boston, but I like to look at it across the league. What's going on in Milwaukee right now is interesting, to say the least, whether you think it's drama or not, whether it's tea, whatever the kids are saying. Where are you guys at with this Bucks team, this Bucks organization? Do you see Giannis staying, actually requesting the trade? Do you see him being traded? Do you see the Bucks contending with Giannis ever again? Or is this something that, the window is kind of closed on this iteration of this Bucks team? And are they better off, trying to get as much as they can and maybe trying to reset on the fly in some capacity? Start with Noah.
Honestly, this feels like one of those inevitable trades that is just, whether it's now or over the summer or the middle of, it's going to happen eventually, is how it's just, again, we had the speculation warning. That's just how it feels.
Speculation.
Like a little
alert.
bit of the Damian Lillard. I actually like that. That feels like it really exonerated me.
I haven't used that in a while.
Yeah.
Hold on.
But
I'm looking for it.
I don't know.
There you
It's clear, Giannis.
By the way, Jimmy with a beer in his hand in that photo.
Yeah, Noah in that visual, in that picture. Yeah.
I like that it's we can do it every 10 seconds, so that if anybody tries to clip this, it's like the speculation warning is in the clip,
Yeah.
That could have been anything in that can, Bobby.
Yeah.
No,
You're
It was
right.
iced tea. I heard it was iced tea.
On championship
Noah.
night.
Yeah. Put it this
It's
way.
like
I didn't bring that beverage. It was remember, what do they have? Coolers out there in the court, Bobby?
All right, back to Giannis.
Yeah, back to Giannis. They had coolers on the court. I wasn't mine. I didn't bring it in.
Who's they? I know it wasn't
Come
for
on.
you.
The Celtics, the NBA. The
I'm
NBA.
sure the NBA provided beer for you to drink.
Well,
That's
he's
what
not going to get kicked out.
I didn't say it was for me. I just said it was there. I didn't say who it was for. All right, back to Giannis. Bobby, speak. I'm not even drunk.
You want me to
guys.
talk?
This
I
is-
didn't know if Noah was done. Yeah,
I was too busy
No,
putting that comment.
no. Noah, please finish your point. This is a Georgia peach soda water.
Are you done, Noah? Or you got more?
No.
I just think
he's
it's
not done.
happening, and I think I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, he's gonna have to stay in the East. Who would not? If they want to work with him whatsoever, if I was Giannis, I would make 8 destinations. They'd all be in the East, because why would you want to deal with Oklahoma City before the finals? If you're trying to leave Milwaukee because you want to contend, you have to stay in the East, right? So then you look at the Knicks, you look at the Pistons, Miami, the usual candidates, teams that are maybe one piece away from really being contenders or really being in the mix. And that's where I expect him to land. And honestly, my gut right now tells me that it will be before the deadline, but these things can drag out for so long. I don't know. It's just my gut.
Wow.
I feel
That would
the
be
opposite.
massive.
Usually right. So
I think it's so
Gotta
hard
learn.
to trade a guy like that in
Gotta
season.
learn.
Especially, I mean, who knows if he's even back by the deadline, Jimmy? They're saying 4 weeks, but it could linger longer with a calf. And there was a good calf article, I believe, in the Athletic today.
Love
I
a good calf article.
Yeah, a lot of concern about calves right now. And they're going to be extra cautious after many, myself included, watched that clip and thought he tore his Achilles that night. Fortunately, he did not. So, it's going to take a while for him to get back. I don't know who's going to make this trade on the fly. My mind keeps going to the Hawks because they own the Bucks pick from the Derek Queen trade at the draft. The number of players that they could send back to the Bucks are numerous on that roster. Okongwu and who knows? Maybe if they're done with the Trae Young business, do the Bucks take him and sign him and try to do something with him after this? Who knows? There's a million different ways that they could get that done. I would not trade Jalen Johnson, though, who's been out of this world. So I like Atlanta as a destination. They have a lot of Pelicans picks, too, from the Murray trade. Yeah, and I think they're ready to go for it. Hopefully Porzingis can, get past this illness situation he's in, because it's been rough for him this year. But that's the team I'm eyeing. Oklahoma City can do it if they want to. Why would they want to at 24-1 with all the future assets they have? And I mean, they could be picking number 1 in this draft.
Oklahoma can only get worse at this point.
Yeah, why would they do anything?
Basketball.
No, they're not going to do it in season. Absolutely not. Maybe they revisit in the summer, but they have assets galore. I mean, they could do it with like one good player going to Milwaukee, I feel like, potentially. So those are teams I'm thinking about, like, Houston. Do they get involved? Do they think of this? It's tough for them to do it in season, probably. Van Fleet, maybe you could use his contract. Brooklyn, like, are they ready to make a move like this? They have some assets, but there's nothing there right now for Giannis to play around.
I can just see that backfiring so badly for Brooklyn.
Yeah. New York, though, I mean, if we're talking about teams in season right now, the Knicks have struggled a little bit, I think, relative to expectations. You're constantly asking that question about the Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns backbone of your defense.
Mm-hmm.
So
what would that look like?
It's tough because the Knicks don't own many picks. I think they only have 2 first-round picks deep into the future because of the Mikal Bridges trade. So they don't have many assets. Does Towns get you enough picks in return if you flip him again if you're Milwaukee? Probably not. But is that the best offer possible by the deadline, as you mentioned, Noah? And do the Knicks decide, like, it's go time? Let's get Giannis and go for this thing. I don't know if Giannis is enough of an upgrade over Towns to warrant how much they'd have to give up. Potentially OG or Bridges in a trade like that, too.
And you mentioned Miami. I think Noah mentioned Miami. They just always seem like a team that's going to be involved.
Yeah, do you trade Bam? I don't know. It feels like they love him, but they're not going anywhere.
Why wouldn't you?
Either.
I think you trade Bam for Giannis. I don't think you really think about that.
What's your gut tell you is the destination, Noah?
Yeah, gut alert.
I don't know. I don't know if I have an instinct on that, but
tough one. I like your thinking.
You don't expect, like, who had Dame going to the Bucks,
Yeah.
Who had Drew Holiday going to the
I couldn't picture that.
Lakers?
No, I don't think he's gonna go out west.
Okay.
Although that would be interesting.
You think he's scared to go out west?
He's not scared of anything.
No,
I think it just wouldn't be.
You're saying?
I think it wouldn't be strategic to go out west as any star. If I'm a star relocating right now, especially if you're already in the Eastern Conference and he's not leaving Milwaukee because he hates Milwaukee or he's having tensions with it's because he feels like if he does leave, it's going to be because he doesn't feel like he has a good chance to win. So to me, to then go out west would be counterintuitive unless you join. I don't know. I guess it would literally have to be the Lakers, and you'd have to feel really confident.
I would love him on the Magic.
I can see.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I obviously see.
He fits their vibe that they've been going for.
Magic's a good one, and you get Florida, so you just keep your money. But I see your point, Noah, on not wanting to go out west. But I don't think these players think about it maybe as black and white as maybe outsiders like us look at it. Like, oh, you cannot beat the Thunder. Like, why would you even consider going out west? I mean, I'm willing to bet that
not just because of the Thunder. Just to be clear, I think it's also just you look at the Eastern Conference right now versus the Western Conference.
Geographically, too, I think.
This might be one of the worst disparities, at least from looking at. Maybe I don't know if that doesn't reflect that, but that's what feels at least.
Of course, it's an easier path, right, to go, coming from the East. But at some point, you're going to have to beat a great team or multiple great teams to get to where you want to go. Unless you're the Boston Celtics 2 years ago, you didn't actually have to beat anybody. You just kind of won a championship. But
wow.
that was a rare circumstance. Typically, you're going to have to beat somebody good out west, regardless of whether you're coming out of the West or coming out of the East. They stunk. Everybody knew they stunk, unless you fooled yourself into believing that they didn't stink. But that's another story.
Jimmy just said easiest path ever.
I didn't say it. I just said I think the Celtics got a little lucky with the opponent there. But
they got some breaks.
Regardless, it is going to be interesting to see what happens with Giannis.
I think we can all agree he's not going to the Celtics.
Are we done with this game? Because I'm kind of done with it. I already moved on to Giannis. But before we move on, maybe a little bit further from Celtics-Bucks, do you guys have any parting words? I mean, we didn't get into some of the
Joe
other
said,
disappointing.
per NBC, Joe said, tonight we got a taste of when we're not at our best.
There you
Just
go.
not our night.
Yeah, I think.
Which I know that's like a classic coach speak, but honestly, that's kind of how I felt about this game too. That's why I wasted 30 minutes before I joined, because I was like, I don't have anything to say.
Kill time.
Just kidding.
You just wanted to watch us flounder for 25 minutes.
Yeah, I was watching you guys. I was like, oh God.
What? It was that bad? Wow.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I won't be watching this one back.
Was he able to comment after this?
Did he have anything else? No, I know you're probably cruising Twitter, but I mean, I think we'd all
I would
agree that
never.
this was certainly not the Celtics' best performance tonight. And I think when Joe looks at it, he's not going to worry. He's not going to even look at the missed shots. He's going to look at how they reacted to those shots and how they did or didn't get back on defense and how they did or didn't, make the smart pass or the extra effort play. I think that's ultimately, what it came down to in this one. And I could pull up the stats here on, sort of like the team matchup stats here. If you look at, field goal percentage, you let the Bucks shoot close to 60% from the field tonight. 45% from three, 58% from the field. Obviously that you can't make it that easy for any opponent. I don't care if you're the Bucks. I don't care if you're the Nets, whoever it is. That's just, and it's rare to say it, but it did feel like the effort just was not there.
So I'll disagree with that a little, Jimmy.
When it needed to be the most. Bob.
Right. Yeah, I mean, they had a poor stretch in the third, and that killed them, particularly shooting the ball. And, when you look at it, you mentioned it earlier, Noah, like all the little areas of the game, they won. Shot margin, free throws, turnovers even, and, the offensive rebounding department, they won pretty handily as well. Yeah, I mean, that's one. I think that shows where the Bucks beat you. Yeah, transition 2 probably wasn't great in this one. So, yeah, I think you controlled the hustle, like small margin areas of this one. You just shot 20 points worse than them. And that's tough to overcome. And obviously, there's going to be shots you look back at that you probably weren't thrilled with and, some plays that you just had a finisher look. But when you come out of a game and win all 4 of those key categories, you're probably not losing many of those games. I don't have a number in front of me for that, but I can't think of many games, where you win all 4, what they call the 4 factors there, and you lose. So that should make fans feel a little better coming out of this one. If they go into a cold spell, we'll see. Do you have concerns about this team, though, Noah, like when shots aren't falling, how effective they can be? Because they have shot well recently.
I think it's fair to say, regardless of who you are, if you shoot 4 of 26 from 3.5, it's going to be tough to overcome that, right? Like even if you do the other things well. And I thought that they had some stagnant possessions and a couple of untimely turnovers and some defensive lapses. So it wasn't like everything was perfect besides for that, but that's inevitable. If it started feeling like a trend, I would be more concerned. But again, like I said earlier in the show, I kind of feel like they were due for one of these nights that just wasn't their night. Because really, I think it's since the Brooklyn Nets game where Jalen called out the effort post-game, they've been pretty consistent on a nightly basis, executing, playing hard, shooting the ball well. Everybody's been trending upward. So, sometimes you just have to, that streak comes to an end. It's why it's so hard to win games in the NBA, right? Because it's hard to kind of string together 6 consecutive wins, which is what tonight would have been. Plus, I'm sure there's a little bit of, this game spelled more winnable. They're coming off some rest, like classic trap game, right? No Giannis. Bucks have lost 10 of 12. I didn't feel like they started that way. Like, I didn't feel like they slept well. They started really strong in this game. So I don't want to lean on that too much, but you have to, when you now zooming out when the game's over, like it does feel like kind of a classic trap game. But, what does Joe always say? Like, it's all about how you respond. They have a great opportunity to respond against the best team in the East on Monday. We saw how they handled Detroit a couple weeks ago. It's going to be really hard to do that 2 times in a row, but that'll be a great opportunity for them to kind of respond to this poor showing.
Bucks have won 3 of 4 against the Celtics at home, going back a little while here. So
that's actually a good point. It does feel like they kind of have a lot of these bad nights in Milwaukee. Like
I've been up there for a bunch of them.
There. Yeah, I've never been. So
good
arena,
one of my favorites.
Yeah, some are saying that's why the Celtics keep losing there.
Why wouldn't you go, Noah? That's so messed up. You know what's kind of
I
crazy
know.
is you guys could have
She was so
went and,
bummed
like,
about Giannis.
you could have actually had a little time to spend there too, because you get some time before and after. Milwaukee's a cool city. I was surprised. I had very, very low expectations, and I was actually going to just go to
What do you like
Chicago
most about it?
instead. I just thought there was like there was like a market in the center of town, in the center of the city, that was really cool. I forget what it was called, but it was right in the middle, and there's just cool outdoor restaurants, rooftop bars, and it's like kind of a very lively center of the city. Now, I obviously didn't see all of it, but the little section that I went to, I thought, oh, there's a lot more going on here than I envisioned. Like fresh, like, food and stuff like that going on. It was cool. Obviously, it's a big
I
beer
liked it
drinking
too.
city too. Beer,
That's
big.
where I was going with you. I was wondering if that was why you like it.
There was a couple beers. A couple beers were tapped, but I would say there was more to it than just that. Okay,
Okay.
we're gonna get out of this game. This was an L. We're never gonna probably ever talk about this game again. Honestly, if like when we're thinking back on this season, we'll probably never reference this game ever. Isn't that kind of crazy? It'll just be a
That's
number.
the hope, right? If
Yeah.
we have to reference it, it would mean that it was some sort of turning point, which hopefully that's not what it is.
That's a good point. Yeah, this is like the beginning. Hopefully, this is either the beginning of the end, or we never think or talk about this game
the
again,
beginning of
so,
the end. They never win another game the rest of the year.
Yeah,
Tough stretch
but
coming up. This could be will be interesting.
we did get something of real positivity between games here. It had nothing to do with any of the players currently playing games for this Boston Celtics team, but it had something to do with the one guy that everyone's kind of got an eye on the side there, Jason Tatum. The highlight reels, the practice reels, the posts, like the little things are coming out here, right? And of course, there's the every player is a business, and you want to stay in the spotlight, and you want to make sure people are thinking about you. But we're starting to see some real movement, literal movement from Jason Tatum on the practice court with trainers. And we're getting some reaction from, actual medical people. And I'm gonna read off one tweet that came out. I think it was yesterday, from a guy, Dr. Jesse Morse. Now, this guy, for all I know, could be a dentist. For all I know, honestly, he could be a dentist, just calling himself a doctor.
We
all
look up his
know
credentials before reading this.
we all know dentists aren't.
Let me
real
look up
doctors, but
Jesse.
they
I
like to be
recognize the
called
name from
doctors.
Twitter. He's one of the Twitter doctors.
Listen, he's
I
got
don't think he's a
160,000. He's got 160,000 followers. He says sports medicine physician, stem cell specialist. Sure.
But he's
dude.
in Miami though.
Functional and
Ooh.
longevity medicine, NFL injury expert, and he's the CEO of something called Injury Experts with a Z. So I don't know if that's a place that people go. If I'm going to an injury expert with a Z at the end, I just don't know if I can take that person seriously. Experts. So there's multiple, with a Z. I guess I'm guessing injury experts with an S was probably taken, so they just went with a Z there. But this is a stem cell guy. He's a stem cell doc. So for whatever reason, he felt qualified to say, after looking at the Jason Tatum practice shooting around video, and I quote from Dr. Jesse Morris, who might be a dentist: Jason Tatum can return literally whenever he wants. My guess is that it will be sometime in January, but he's close to being ready now. And that's from an injury expert right there. Now, whether or not Tatum comes back in January isn't the topic of this discussion, right? I think we would all agree that would be really early. Were we all in agreement there that would be extremely early compared to other players with same or similar injuries? Regardless, where are you guys at with Jason Tatum right now after seeing, I know we all saw the video and we've all analyzed it and we've probably seen a lot of reaction. Let's start with you, Noah. Just reaction on the video. Or does it feel like to you, ahead of where you thought he'd be at this time, or did you not really have an opinion, or where are you kind of at with things?
So Bobby and I discussed this on our podcast episode yesterday, and my initial instinct when I saw the clips in one-on-one and we're seeing him go against Tony Dobbins and he's exploding off both feet, and it just looks a lot more comprehensive than it did the last time we got these kind of clip dumps, is okay, he looks pretty close. And it's early December. Like, we're not even a third of the way into the season, and he already looks pretty close. Without a doubt, he's going to come back at some point. A couple of things that, I don't want to say changed my mind, but just tempered my excitement. One, Tyrese Halliburton mentioned the other day that he hopes to be playing one-on-one by the end of the month. And obviously we know he's ruled out for the season. Like, preemptively, he made that decision and the team did. And so I was like, okay, if that's going to be where he's at in late December, say he reaches that milestone, like, I guess there has to be some sort of a pretty substantive gap between playing one-on-one to playing 5-on-5 if Halliburton's going to be cleared for that and then not coming back the rest of the year. Obviously, everybody has their own risk mitigation and like the Pacers are in a different position and all that, but that's one thing. And then I've spoken to a couple doctors who have stressed that the most difficult part is responding to unexpected movement. So right now, everything that Tatum is doing, he's doing at his own pace. He is determining what the move is going to be. He's determining what drills he's running and all of that. And in a 5-on-5 NBA game, like, obviously you're not, from the first second the ball is jumped, like, you're responding, right? So I think there is a little bit more of a gap between what he's doing to like real NBA basketball than what I feel when I watch it. When I watch it, I'm like, okay, if he can do that, he can get in the game. Like, obviously not literally, but that's where my brain goes. So I'm tempering that expectation. That being said, it's December 11th and we're getting these videos. Like, that feels so early. I thought we were going to start getting this kind of momentum and conversation maybe early February. Like, that's what I was anticipating. And so maybe it's just Tatum putting that out there and it doesn't necessarily mean he's closer than we think, but I don't know. I feel pretty good about him coming back February, March, sometime in that ballpark. We don't have no reporting that indicates that. Everybody's been very tight-lipped, as they should be, considering kind of the gravity of the situation. But that's where my instinct is after watching his highlights. We're seeing him shooting around, and just from talking to a few people who are more well-versed in this space.
We're at 7 months tomorrow.
Yeah.
It was May 12th when the injury occurred. Actually, we're coming up on the anniversary in about 20 minutes here, if you guys want to stick around. Bobby, where are you at with things? 7 months.
So we were looking back at some of the guys who have returned this year.
Let's toss up. I got a few lower thirds that I'm gonna toss up here. Here's Isaiah. You can keep talking, Bobby.
Yeah, so Isaiah Jackson, Drew Smith. It was interesting. Their returns came during the preseason. At the start of this year. So tough to tell when they would have actually been ready to go. You look at Isaiah Jackson here, who tore his Achilles last season at the very beginning. He was good to go at the start of camp, obviously, because he had a ton of time by that point. But he was talking about feeling 80-90% in mid-July, which was about the 8-month mark. So if we're talking about Tatum in January, he could probably...
That's 8 months, right?
Yeah, he could probably push, right? Get out there a little less than 100%, try to be the fastest ever coming back, whatever you want to call that. But we know he's not going to do that, right? And so I understand the doctor saying that, like, if he wanted to get on the court now and play, he probably could. And that's what we see out there, right? Like, him playing basketball. But it'd be extremely risky, obviously, and he's not at that point. So I think with these timelines, and as you see with Drew Smith here, back to 5-on-5 around 9 months, obviously for Tatum, that's February. You could see Tatum around the All-Star break starting to do some 5-on-5 stuff, starting to do some contact, practicing, ramping up. And does that get you ready for March? How does that go? Do you have a setback? Is it all of a sudden you're not playing this season? Like, there's a lot of questions we have to answer at this point. But when you look at some of these timelines, Noah, and we've talked about this, obviously, with the timing of the surgery, the development of the surgery and how it's improved, him playing this year is not a crazy thing. Like, 11 months or 10 months is somewhere between March and April. And I guess there'll be some debate over how worth it is, playoff line, but him playing this year is very much in play, especially looking at what these other guys have done. And both of those guys have been productive this season, Drew Smith.
Well, we're looking at Drew Smith right now. I mean, you could see it right here. You mentioned it. He was cleared for 5-by-5 at around 9 months, and he played less than a month after that. So just over 9 months, Drew Smith came back from his Achilles tear. So what are you looking at? You're looking at March for that, right? I mean, if you're talking Tatum, we're just comparing months here. Obviously, the training and the recovery and the rehab is everyone's different. But to your point, Bobby, this guy did it. Drew Smith. Theoretically,
And the difference
so could Jason
is,
Tatum.
the difference is obviously he's starting day one training camp. So practices, workouts, ramp up for the start of the preseason. You
Mhm.
play the preseason and then you play in the regular season. So that's the difference here between these guys who were ready to go at the end of the summer versus Tatum, who's going to be ready to go at the end of the season. So where do you find a practice day to get him into? Where do you find a good spot to get him ramped up in? And as we've talked about, Noah, I'm very skeptical that they'd throw him into the playoffs. I think that's just such a tough spot to come back from this from. I feel like no one has ever really done that from not only Achilles, but numerous injuries.
To miss
I feel
that
like to be-
long, it's tough. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the one thing to have missed the last month of the regular season, but to miss almost a year of basketball, that would be pretty brutal. I do think Drew Smith is probably the best example we have right now. And what stands out to me about his timeline is that he didn't have to come back in October. Like, there's a whole season coming, right? He could, if he needed another month, it would have been completely fine to just take another month. Plenty of
Mhm.
guys started the season sidelined. So that shows me that he was quite literally 100% ready to go, or else there was no reason to force it, right? With Tatum, we know he's trying to get in with a little bit of reps before a potential playoff run. Like, there's a little bit more urgency in that standpoint because of how much delayed his timeline is. But that to me was a very encouraging sign that he was ready to go from the start of the year, because there was no pressure to be able to do that. So it just kind of shows you that that's where the timeline is at now for some of these athletes. Everybody's going to have their own process and timeline. I think why it started feeling so improbable for me was because right away there was 3 major Achilles injuries in the playoffs. 2 of the guys ruled out. 1 guy is not ruled out. So right away it feels like, okay, if Tatum comes back, it's going to be kind of doing this thing that's against all odds because the other 2 guys have been ruled out. And then when you think about it more deeply, Damian Lillard is older. He's going into a different situation. And then Tyrese Halliburton it happened a month later. And so maybe if roles are reversed, they're ruled out reverse. Maybe Tyrese Halliburton also is more risk averse or felt like he needed, mentally it was a different approach. I think for some people it might really help them to say, I'm going to try to come back this season. For some people it might help more to say, I have 15 months and I can take my time and not, everybody's different. So the more we've thought about it, I think we've all kind of reckoned with the reality that like he if he does come back this year, there's no reason to think that it's like a risky thing to do or it's irresponsible. Like if he comes back, it's because he was ready to go and everybody approved it and medical was on the same page. And there's also some benefits to not being sidelined for 15 months as it relates to other parts of your body, right? To stay kind of within that game speed, game shape, all that. And if you saw his appearance on like the Marcus Morris stream or podcast, he talked about how this is like the best he's felt and the strongest he's been in other aspects of his body because he's had so much time to work on that. So maybe there will be some positive ramifications as well.
Yeah, and I think another guy to watch for here as we get into January is DeJounte Murray, who, from what I've seen, no news he's been cleared, but he tore his on January 31st last year against the Celtics, obviously, at home. And no news, no updates about him and his timeline right now. So does he get back within a year range? Obviously, if Tatum's going to miss a year, he's not going to play this season, you would imagine, unless the team goes deep into the playoffs. And then it's that same question of, are you tossing him into a playoff series at that point? So I felt good about this. It's all speculation. We want to hit the button, but this is definitely in play. And the guys who have come back more recently, the advancements of the surgery, his timing, his age, I think all put him in a good position.
His
along with
type
the
of
fact that-
surgery, right? The speed bridge that you guys reported on, I think that's a part of it as well. And the fact that he was seen within days later, kind of already starting some level of rehab on that. So I don't think Jason Tatum has done one single thing to slow his recovery timetable. And when you look at guys who have had the surgeries and have come back in the times that they've come back, and you say, well, according to Jason Tatum's, surgeon, he has this superhuman calf that he's never seen before, right?
Yeah.
And coming from a guy that specializes in, I think it was ankle and foot and obviously lower body injuries and surgeries, that's something to be said. And to see Tatum already moving the way he's moving, I really like what Noah said about having spoken to doctors, and that's an interesting and important point to make, is that he's controlling his body movements more than he'll be able to when the brain and the mind, when the mind starts racing out there in the court and you're reacting to other people what they're doing. That's when you really are going to be testing not only the Achilles and what everything else. Right now, you're getting into your movement, you're getting into your set, what move you're going to make. You're not going 100%. The guys defending you are just kind of putting a body on you for the sake of putting a body on you. So of course there's going to be a major difference in what we see today and what needs to happen in order for him to get in the court in a few months. But
And then, like we've talked about, whenever he comes back, Jimmy, he won't be himself. Conditioning, shot making, all of that. It's going to take some time.
He's going to have to get to that
in
point.
The middle of a season.
What if he is? What if he comes back and he's literally himself?
Then
like, is
you're
that
talking
a possibility?
about I mean,
well,
certainly,
he literally
but you're
will
talking
be
about
himself.
Yeah.
What if he comes back and he's like 30 points a night, 10 rebounds? He's like hasn't missed a beat.
I mean, that's what Durant did, and that's why he's the standard.
Then there's a new contender in the East.
I haven't even considered that. I'm always picturing like a limited version of him.
Anything's possible. Anything is possible with what he's done and who he is. Like it is unprecedented, as you've said, Noah. Like we have never seen a guy in this position come back from this. So what does that look like, especially on the shorter end of a timeline? It's going to be interesting to see. I think some of the best, more productive returns from this thing have taken longer, have ramped up over a more controlled environment. So he's trying to do something very difficult right now, and we'll see where this team's at by that point too right now. Do you think we'll see him, Jimmy?
Yeah, so I was about to finish my point by saying that, Bobby. I'm kind of with you. I feel when it all went down and when the regular season started, I was like, there's no chance. Why? That would be stupid. Why risk it? But then I'm also sitting there saying, well, these guys, they're different, right? So like if he's healing at a pace that the doctors look at him, the surgeons look at him, and he's cleared to play. I mean, and the tendon looks like it's supposed to look, and it's strong, and he passes all the tests. And oh, by the way, the Celtics are a playoff team who I think a lot of people, including myself, didn't think that would be maybe in the equation. And again, who knows? It's still a long season. But if all those things are true, and knowing what we know about Jason Tatum is that, and Bobby, you said it, it's hard to get him off the court. It's hard to get him out of his jersey. Right? He doesn't want to rest. He doesn't want to, watch from the bench. This is a guy that wants to play, and he's doing everything he possibly can do to play for a reason. And I think it might be a goal that he's just kept in the back of his mind, just to say, I want to play this year. Like that's my goal. And that
motivation.
Motivation. And maybe it's more or less possible than he knows or than we know, but I truly believe that he wakes up every day with the idea or with the thought or with the promise to himself that he's going to do everything he can today to get closer to playing this season. And I think that's what he's doing. And I think if you're a Celtics fan or just a fan of greatness and athletic feats, you should be rooting for that too. Everybody should be behind this guy in his rehab because I think it's actually refreshing. And I think we take it for granted sometime that, the Celtics are lucky to have players like Tatum and Brown that really do put it all out there, it seems, and leave it all out in the court and play hard and want to play and want to prove people wrong. They both really seem to kind of get off on proving doubters wrong. It almost feels like they pay more attention to the hate than the love sometimes, right? And if that gets them going, then great. Then let that get them going. If Jason Tatum thinks that there's a lot of people out there that think it's stupid if he plays this year and that drives him to want to play this year, great. If Jaylen Brown thinks that the Celtics should, if people think the Celtics should tank because there's no Tatum and that drives Jaylen Brown to make this team good enough to not tank, then great. As opposed to the opposite of guys in street clothes sitting on the bench and, being there, physically being there, but not really mentally being there and not really emotionally supporting these guys. I give credit to both Tatum and both Brown for kind of leading the way, again, in completely different ways right now because Tatum's doing his off the court, but I'm sure that's inspiring to his teammates in a way to see how hard he's working to get back out there. And maybe it inspires them to want to play well and to want to be in a position to make it make sense for Tatum to play this year. Maybe that is what they're going to need.
he didn't have to go on preseason road trips and go to every shoot around and every film session. I mean, there have been optional shoot arounds this year where we've seen him at, like, working out on the side. So from the jump, I didn't know what to expect. I haven't covered an athlete before that's been in that position, but it was pretty notable that he was in Memphis and in Toronto at preseason, right? Where there was literally no reason to be. And he's, obviously he's a professional athlete. He gets paid for this is his job. But Joe said that the day of practice, like, rehab is a lot harder than what these guys are doing during the season. Like, it's so difficult in so many different ways. So definitely it's been cool to kind of see the progress. It's been cool that he's been letting us in a little bit to see that, sometimes shooting around while the media's out there or posting
he wants
clips
to be
or whatever
seen.
else.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to disappear.
Yeah, honestly, if I were a player, I'd do the same. I'd be like, "Oh, you guys are all here to see me shoot around. I'm going to start shooting around."
Yeah, and it's exciting. I'm glad he's let us in because it provides some hope to not only fans, but I'm sure the team gets a boost from seeing him around. And to your point about how he's helped them out, no, I do have a story coming on CLNSmedia.com tomorrow about how he's helped out all the individual players on this team this season, telling Garza that he's not setting the screen the right way on the bench. Getting in White's ear when he was struggling early this season. You always saw him joking around with Derek at the beginning of the year during timeouts. And Jordan Walsh, I think he had an impact on as well, telling him to be a killer, look at the basket, look to score yourself. And I feel like we didn't give Jordan enough due tonight for how great he continues to look. Man. And
we didn't.
Jalen's had some help with that. Jason obviously has contributed to it. Others on this team over the years. If there's a silver lining to tonight, and I guess this can be like my final take on this one. You sat back at times before this game went to hell, and we're just like, yeah, there goes another three. There's another steal. He has 3 steals in the first half. Oh, there's another great play around the rim. There's another. It's just so normal watching him absolutely dominate the game right now as a starter on this team, and maybe slow down a little bit in the second half in terms of that impact. But I mean, this guy. It's unbelievable what he's making every shot he puts up, 3 or 2, and the confidence and the assertiveness he's playing with. It looks like he's been an NBA player for years, the level he's playing at right now. I don't know if this is going to last, but this has to be so much fun for not only him and his teammates as well right now. Like, I'm just amazed. This is the best story by far this season, what he's been able to do.
Yeah, it feels like
shocking.
a Linsanity run. Except sustainable because the main thing that's impressive
I was
is the
part of
defense.
Linsanity, Noah. I'll have you know, but go on.
What do you mean?
I want you to finish your Walsh point, then I'll tell you.
No, Sean Grandy responded to me saying that, being like, "Were you old? You weren't even old enough to know about Linsanity." I was all for Linsanity. I didn't miss a Knicks game during that stretch. But yeah, if you look at his stat line, like, that's ridiculous. This is the same guy that a month ago wasn't playing, 3 weeks ago was playing, but we were like, okay, but he's going to go over 2 every night because he's just a purely defensive player. And then over the past week or so here, I mean, it was last Thursday that we were in DC where he has a career night. He has the second best scoring night the next day. Like, it just feels like he's found a way to impact the game offensively in a way that I honestly didn't know. I didn't know that was in his bag. Some of the moves, some of the finishes, some of the moves, the confidence with which he's shooting. Like, routinely, I mean, he's shooting like 46% from 3 or something on the season now. So things are going to go down to earth a little bit. Like, that 7 for 7 first half was ridiculous.
Maybe they won't.
Well, then he's trending towards being an MVP candidate if this continues. This kind of shooting. But
exactly.
yeah, like, this is just so much more than you could have hoped for him entering the season. And the last thing I'll say on it is just entering the year. I know everybody was excited about potentially getting a really good draft pick and using that as your piece for the future. Jordan Walsh might end up becoming that piece for the future that the Celtics were hoping they would find in the draft this year. Like, he is showing flashes of that. And again, it's been a month. I don't want to say anything crazy yet, but like, there's been a lot to love about his game in all ways. Offensively, mostly defensively, crashing the glass, racking up steals and deflections. Like, he might end up being that piece that everybody hoped that they would find this year via the draft. And next year, maybe he's ready for a starting role, a 30-minute a night role. Like, maybe he's the next Jaden McDaniels. I don't know. But he is certainly somebody that you were hoping to find this year. And I think you might have found him 3 years ago, but he's just kind of now ready for this opportunity.
Can I say this real quick, Jimmy? 34 of his last 44 from the field.
Wow. Yeah. No, I mean, Jordan Walsh is on a historic run. We'll all remember the year that Jordan Walsh turned into Michael Jordan Walsh.
You said it, Jimmy, not me.
But yeah, no, I think he's become the poster child of like how Joe Mazzulla wants the sort of unheralded guys to approach the game. And if you do, you'll be rewarded. Not only, and we're seeing it. And to your point, Noah, we were all scratching our heads wondering if there were any players that would, I guess, rise from the ashes in a way and show that they are part of this team for the future. And right now, Jordan Walsh is carving a role for himself beyond this year. And that's really what it's all about. If you think that this year is, fun while it lasted sort of thing, and that eventually that, it'll end the way people probably think it will, then you want to at least know who are you bringing with you next season, who's rounding out the rotation, or, who's going to be the value contracts.
Jimmy, if he continued on the run he was on, like what he was doing before he started playing this year, he might not even been on the team next year.
Right. 100%. And he might not even be in the league. So it's huge and again, it's all about opportunity and being prepared for that opportunity. And you got to give him credit. And maybe you guys were right all along. Maybe being in Maine as much as these guys were, maybe at some point it does click, right?
What a bummer. Speaking of Maine, Amari Williams, broken hand. Is he going to be out long, Noah?
I don't get the sense that it's like a super long-term thing. He finished the game with that injury. That injury was suffered in the second quarter, and then he finished with a triple-double, which was wild. I went back and saw the play, and it's like he just goes like this kind of, that's it. And then the rest of the game, he's totally normal, which is just kind of goes to show you that these guys are just so used to playing through pain. But yeah, weird, because both Ron Harper and Amari were at practice. They both have been playing extremely well. And he seems to be, they both are probably going to miss a little bit of time after starting off the G League season really strong. And Maine keeps winning. 9 straight wins for the Maine Celtics. I'll have some stories about my time in Maine last week and coming up soon here, which I think now fans used to clown me for the Maine Celtics coverage. Everybody's like, what you got for Maine, Noah? Like, we want to see the next big thing, because now everybody's buying the Maine Celtics.
We don't clown you.
Oh, no, I was clowned. I was clowned.
Okay, yeah. All right, you were clowned. Yeah. I remember.
Oh, Maine too.
Yeah. Do you guys want the quick Linsanity story before we head out?
Yes.
We'll leave on that note. So Linsanity was like back in 2012. I was like 2 years out of college. I was covering Celtics for the Metro, which was the commuter newspaper in Boston here, free paper, but they had a good sports section. Shout out the Metro. We did a lot of good things. But I was freelancing, so I could write for whoever I wanted to write for and whatever. So the Lakers were coming to Boston. It was Celtics Lakers, and obviously a big deal. I got a text or an email from Jeff Twist asking if I could write an article for the New York Post about Linsanity from the Lakers' perspective. So basically they wanted Kobe Bryant's opinion on this whole Jeremy Lin craziness going on around the NBA.
But you were the one that asked that question.
Excuse me?
Oh, sorry, continue.
Yeah.
I'm reading your momentum.
I'll take questions at the end of the story. So the Lakers are coming to Boston, and then I guess you guys probably know what I'm going to say. They're going to New York after that. So New York didn't obviously care about Celtics Lakers. They cared about getting a story in the paper about the Lakers coming to New York City and getting ready for Linsanity. So I end up on the phone with Mark Berman, New York Post writer, and he tells me what he wants. He's like, listen, we just want to get Lakers' reaction to Linsanity, try to get Kobe's reaction. So at this point, pregame, I'm like, I'm a Lakers fan, because I know that if the Lakers win the game, I'm going to get a quote, or I'm going to get at least some decent quotes from the players. Sure enough, the Lakers pull it off. Like, I forget exactly how it ended, but I know it was a really good game, and the Lakers won. So I'm in the Lakers locker room waiting for Kobe, finally get Kobe to sit down. And I'm like, again, a couple years out of college, barely, can barely see in front of me what I'm doing. And I get the question out. Kobe looks at me like I've got like 3 heads. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I kind of rephrase the question again, because I'm like, shit, I got to get this quote. I got to get like a reaction on Linsanity. So I explain, like Jeremy Lin, he's, kind of going off right now for the Knicks, and it's, the city's in a tizzy, and he's kind of just dominating the league. And he looks at me and a couple of the guys around me, and he's like, I literally have no idea what you're talking about. And basically is basically
I
what Kobe
cannot
was
believe
doing.
that was you.
That was me. Basically, what Kobe
I
was
have
doing was
rewatched that so many times. I cannot believe that was you.
that was me in the flesh.
Wow.
And
You
so
knew him all this
obviously,
time.
you know how it ended. Kobe acted like he didn't know who Jeremy Lin was. The Lakers go to New York. Jeremy Lin torches him and torches the Lakers in one of the most like epic games in Madison Square Garden history, really, all things considered. And you know, the rest is kind of history. But it was an unbelievable time. That was just such a fun run. And yeah, I had like the back and forth with Kobe, and I left there at first being like, I totally fucked up. I didn't get a quote. But then I was like, wait a second. The story is that Kobe Bryant is not even giving Jeremy Lin the time of day. So I put the article together, wrote it up, emailed it to the Post, and it was like back page New York Post, like the next day, like when the Lakers were coming to town.
Hey,
And
Jimmy.
I swear to God, I was watching the game, and it was an ESPN game, and I swear to God, I was watching the game. And maybe it's just me making this up in my head, but I could have sworn they tossed up like a picture of the Post that during the game or something. I was like, I wrote that article. It's like, that was
Did you have a
sweet.
byline? Wow.
Yeah, I had a byline in it. Yeah, you could probably find it somewhere on the internet or whatever. I don't know how to work like microfilm or microfiche anymore, but it's out there somewhere. It was a good story.
That's amazing. Because I
Yeah, it was a
remember
fun
that I was so obsessed with Linsanity. Like when I was a kid, I used to get so obsessed with like specific players, and obviously Linsanity is like the best candidate. But the way I would get obsessed with these players is that I had to consume every piece of media surrounding them. Like I had to rewatch all the games. I had to read every single article. And I remember the Kobe reaction and being like, I'm so excited for this game now. Like, how could you not know? And rewatching the thing, I'm like, I almost like, I can't believe that was you. I never like, why would that be you?
I remember,
like, you don't cover the
I'll never
Lakers.
forget.
Like, why were you even there? You know, like it's such an unlikely story.
I'll never
Jimmy,
forget.
I'll never interrupt you again.
Thank you. I
Now that I
appreciate that.
know.
You will though. That's okay.
And
I'll never forget. Like the last thing he said to me was like, "I appreciate the question," though. Like the most like cocky, like condescending way ever. Being like, "I don't give a f about anything you're saying, and I don't even know who Jeremy Lin is, dude." So I was like, kind of glad that he got torched after that, to be completely honest. But that was a great time. Anyways, that's my story. We'll leave
Nowadays
it at that.
we would have said Kobe Bryant ignores Jeremy Lin or something like that on YouTube.
No, that is what I wrote. Are you kidding me? I was like,
I'm saying on YouTube.
oh yeah, in like all caps, like Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, all the aggregation would be like Kobe Bryant makes shocking admission about Jeremy Lin.
Yeah. Luckily this was before the internet, so it was all good. Like nobody even knew it happened until it showed up in the newspaper the next day.
Do you know what the headline was? Back
in 2012. I took a picture of it somewhere, but I don't exactly remember exactly what the headline was. Tomorrow night. Is that the Amit's tossing up the link to the interview, I guess. That's funny. Yeah, it was me. Ben Rohrbach was. I remember Ben Rohrbach was right next to me.
Shout out to Ben.
Yeah, he was
still
there.
hanging around.
He'd back me up on that one, and a couple other Celtics dudes were hanging around in the locker room. I always go to the visitor locker room.
I just watched. I will never look at you the same, Jimmy. I remember this line of questioning so vividly. Like How
did you look at me before? You didn't respect.
Wow.
I will only look at you with awe and reverence now.
I appreciate that, and we'll leave on that note, guys. Thank you guys though for watching the show.
That's a funny headline actually on here.
What is it?
Kobe Bryant on Jeremy Lin. What the fudge is going on? I don't think he said fudge.
No, he did. He literally looked at me. He literally looked at us like we had no idea. We had no idea. Like we were actually bothering. Like I think I said to him, like, "Are you gonna guard him? You know, like, are you? You know what I mean? Like." And he kind of just laughed at the idea that like he would guard Jeremy Lin, and then like flash forward like 24 hours later, and Jeremy Lin's blowing by him. But anyways, that's it for us, guys. Celtics drop one tonight, first loss in a while, so bit of a weird feeling, but I think you know we're gonna get past this. We're gonna move on. Big one coming up Monday against Detroit. I think Bobby and Noah will have a little preview coming up for us for that one. The Beasts of the East.
Yeah, we got practice on Sunday. Maybe a little more Tatum footage from practice. So yeah, we'll see what happens out there.
Yep.
Time off continues for this team.
I know. Weird. A whole weekend off. Enjoy your weekends, everybody. Get your Christmas shopping done. Or your Hanukkah shopping, whatever it is you celebrate. Noah, do you celebrate anything?
A little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything. I knew you were going to say a
whole lot of nothing.
You're going to say that. I just knew you were going to say that. Okay, well, whatever you celebrate, get your chores done this weekend so you can enjoy the holiday season with your friends and your family. We'll see everybody back here Monday night against Detroit. Again, Celtics drop 116-101 to the Bucks. We're on to Detroit. Amit, hit us with the outro.